And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, we're going to talk about one thing: condition, condition, condition. And as many of you know, condition's nothing new to the Pokemon hobby, especially when it comes to vintage. The true testimonial for vintage is that the cards that are out there, there's not going to be a lot of new cards hitting the market at very high conditions. So that's one of the big driving points to go after high grade cards when it comes to vintage. But that's not really what we're going to talk about in today's video. I feel like that sector of the hobby is pretty well understood. People really have a good grasp on it. You understand the raw basics and why a lot of people, including myself, have always going after the vintage market because of that reason, right? Vintage does not get reproduced, does not get reprinted. What cards are out there on the market are out there. What hasn't been graded yet is probably locked up in sealed product for the most part at very high grades. Sure, could you have a couple binder collection cards that were kept in real condition, could be really high grades? Sure, but we don't expect a huge flood of that. So we're not going to talk about that in today's video. But what we're going to talk about in today's video is modern cards and why condition is actually so important for modern. People absolutely love modern. In fact, I'm amazed at how much people actually do love modern. But modern right now, guys, I gotta warn you, it's coming with a really huge risk factor for a lot of people out there. Modern is going to get printed an extremely lot. And I think we're already starting to see that. And the numbers for modern product are really hard to ignore at this, stage of the game. I did try to warn you guys about battle styles in a video previous. I did say that battle styles will be the first modern set we see in, the very recent present to be on the shelves. And we are going to see it in multiple ways, and we're already seeing it now. One, single pack blisters, readily available in a lot of big box retail. ETBs are sitting on the shelves for Walmart way longer than I've really ever seen any sort of ETB sit on the shelves. But the problem with Battle Styles is it doesn't have amazing pull rates, and the cards in the set are not, out of this world fantastic. Battle Styles is also going to fall in a weird niche too, because it's going to fall in between some awesome sets. Vivid Voltage being a very strong set. Darkness Ablaze, okay, pretty good. So those are the two sets previous. But following Battle Styles, you got Chillin' Reigns, you got Evolving Skies, and then the 25th anniversary set. Battle Styles will be the first set to kind of fall off the radar. And I've said it in the past. Battle Styles will be the first product to really start to have a strong withdrawal in price. And I think we're already starting to see that. Not just across the board in sealed product. And when I say a drop in price, what I mean by drop in price is you can readily pick this product up at MSRP. And MSRP recently, is the first time we've actually seen it. Before that, you were paying over MSRP for a lot of this product. But with that said, if you've also taken any of the advice I have given you on this channel, I've tried to express one thing: do not buy any product over MSRP. And trust me, I understand a lot of people out there think it's really hard to get cards. They don't have a lot of patience. They're willing to pay exorbitant prices. But guys, you're really shooting yourself in the foot anytime you do that. So what have we seen now with Battle Styles? We've seen, the initial hype. We've seen the slow, gradual retrace in price to where booster boxes are right around that MSRP price, which is great because this is exactly the scenario I thought would play out. And why is this scenario important to me? Again, you got to keep in mind one thing. This channel is extremely speculative. I make a lot of judgment calls based off of zero fact. But with that said, What I imagine happening with Battle Styles, and I still believe will happen with Battle Styles, is that Battle Styles will not get as reprinted going further and going farther with other sets that are going to be in much higher demand than Battle Styles. And what I mean by that is right now, we're seeing a lot of supply on the shelves. And I believe that Pokemon Company would realize that, wow, Battle Styles is the first modern set we've produced in a long time that's actually sitting on the shelves. Pokemon will not be as incentivized to go back and reprint the crap out of Battle Styles if there's so much demand for all their other modern sets surrounding that. And the only reason that they wouldn't want to go back and do that is if Battle Styles sits on the shelves. And again, that's what we're seeing. And that's very important. And why is that very important? Because that means that Pokemon Company is actually really ramping up a ton of production for their most current, most modern set. So if this trend continues, where we see the most modern set they release just get, a ton of printing, ton of ETBs, a ton of packs, a ton of booster boxes. If we continue to see this, it's going to mean a lot of things. And especially, we're already starting to see the Pokemon hobby as a whole start to do a little bit of a downtrend. This downtrend that we're seeing, it's a little camouflage. It's a little hidden because it's surrounded by a lot of hype, right? And you got to look at the market as a whole. And I know it's really easy to do tunnel vision and just look at certain things. Don't get me wrong. Tunnel vision wise, Chillin' Reigns pre-orders, crazy. Whatever this Evolving Skies set's going to be, if they do somehow make it a combination of the Japanese Eevee Hero set plus, more or less, Rayquaza and all these other cards that could be centered around this set. If it's it's going to still be in a lot of demand, and 25th anniversary, again, is going to have a ton of demand. So that's the tunnel vision, right? You're just looking at these very hyped, very modern sets. But as you pull back a little bit and you start to look at a little bit more of the market as a whole, especially when it comes to a lot of modern single prices, you're starting to see a pretty steady retraction. And where we're really seeing a pretty strong retraction too is in graded card prices. But where are we seeing, the market really getting hit the hardest for these graded cards is going to be at the 9 levels. And I'm going to explain to you why that's important. For modern cards, the printing, like I said, is so much. The amount of cards being graded is an astronomical amount. You look at some of the most recent sets that are finally starting to kind of get graded at PSA. The big one really being Darkness Ablaze right now, and these are like the bulk submissions. We're starting to see Darkness Ablaze numbers for graded cards explode. And when I tell you they're exploding, they're going insane. We're talking about hundreds of Charizard VMAXs from Darkness Ablaze being added to the pop report every week. Hundreds with an S. There are some vintage sets out there that you don't see 100 graded cards added in PSA 10 for an entire half a decade. It takes 5 years for some of these vintage cards to, add 110s. And Darkness Ablaze is adding 110s for just Charizard in a week. Hundreds. But you gotta, again, not to have too much tunnel vision where you just look at that too. You gotta take even another step further back and really be amazed now. And why do I say you gotta be amazed? Because you still have to look at how much demand for modern there is and how much product has actually been open. Because as you guys understand, in order to pull Charizards, you got to open a lot of packs. So if this many cards are being graded by PSA, that means, that many more packs had to actually be opened. So that means people were opening an astronomical amount of sealed product. And the only time you see people opening this much sealed product is because the demand was there for it. So, it's just something to think about. You got to look at the market as a whole. You can't just look at it one way. Yeah, there's a ton of Charizards being graded, but you got to remember the important thing. All this product is being opened. But the crazy thing about Darkness Ablaze too is Darkness Ablaze booster boxes, ETBs, packs, they're not really on the shelves right now. So the market was actually able to absorb all that product, which is amazing. And you got to ask yourself the question, how much longer can the market really continue to absorb this much product? Because again, speculation channel, I can't give you true numbers that are facts, but I guarantee you, Battle Styles was more than Vivid Voltage, and Vivid Voltage was probably a little bit more than Darkness Ablaze in print runs, and the market's just being able to absorb this. But Chillin' Reigns, I bet you, will even be more than Battle Styles. And then Evolving Skies will be even more than Chillin' Reigns. And then the 25th anniversary will probably be even more than all of them combined, especially if it has any kind of Evolutions type feel to it, where it's like a 20th anniversary set for Evolutions. Maybe the 25th anniversary set we're going to see will be something similar with a nostalgic feel. And we've seen what they printed Evolutions to just oblivion. Maybe the 25th anniversary will just go on forever, or at least for the next 5 years they'll print that set. But you got to keep in mind now, what is the topic of this video? The topic of this video is condition, condition, condition. Because right now, there's going to be a lot of modern cards in pack fresh condition that were recently pulled that you're going to be able to pick up the singles on the market for relatively cheap. And the main reason you're going to be able to start to pick up a lot of cheaper singles is because of two reasons. PSA is closed and CGC is, over a year now, or pretty close to a year with turnaround times. Those are your two reasons right there. People are not going to want to send a lot of cards away for grading and more or less send them away forever. The trouble, too, with PSA is we don't know what tiers they're really going to open on July 1st. I know we've already said it. We've touched base on it in other videos. Yes, the letter that the CEO released said all tiers. Who knows if that really happens? It could be months, it could be years till we see bulk grading opened, or it might be on July 1st. But with that said, the big money to be made is in grading cards in the long term. So that brings up the question, well, what happens if we can start to pick up raw singles with the intent to grade in the long term? And why is that really important? It's kind of just what I said when I talked about the Charizard. In order to pull a lot of these chase cards, you have to actually open a ton of packs. And, when you look at it from just a person-by-person basis and not the entire market as a whole, for one person to open that many packs in order to pull these chase cards is actually pretty high. Like a lot of cards or a lot of packs you have to open, it's a pretty decent, financial obligations for people to try to open up that many packs. And when you go back to the more vintage stuff, and don't get me wrong, print runs are different, demand was different in the past, but when you look at like a gold star card, you only had to open up 72 packs. Yeah, and I say the word only 72 packs. But to pull these Charizard VMAXs and stuff, you have to open a lot more packs. So that's why just buying the single is so much cheaper or so much, more efficient for your money, because you're not going to probably pull that card unless you open a ton of packs. So when you have some of these really hard to get chase cards, but now you have the raws of these sitting on the market because of how much product everybody else is opening. So you just sit back and you can let everybody around you do all the hard work for you. Let them, spend the hundreds and thousands of dollars to buy tons of packs, tons of booster boxes, rip it, and eventually flood the market in the very near term with a ton of raw singles, just because they can't send those cards away for graded. So it could lead up to huge buying opportunities for a lot of investors and collectors, especially for those of you that are really focused in modern cards. This could be a huge potential for you. And am I telling you right now to not pick up any sealed product? No. Listen, if you like sealed modern product, continue the go ahead. Keep picking it up. By now, I'm sure you're very well aware of what the risk is for modern, especially with the amount of product being printed. And we talked about that in this video. We talked about it before. You know that. I understand that you're probably at the level and you're smart enough now to understand the risks you're taking when purchasing modern. But again, the huge caveat, and I can't stress it anymore, you gotta pick up modern product at MSRP. And trust me, I understand that a lot of people might think that's hard, but I don't think people really think that picking up modern product is hard. What I think people really mean when they say that's hard is that people have a huge struggle with just waiting. And trust me, I understand it. I see it. I can hear it in people when they talk about modern. They're just not willing to wait to either buy that product to open it or buy that product to sit on, which the second part of that is pretty hard to understand, right? People don't want to wait for modern product to drop a little bit in price, for the hype for products to die down a little bit, to pick up product to include in their sealed collection. Sealed collection, not the stuff they want to open right away, the stuff they're going to put away in a corner and, maybe sit on for a little while. So I just want you guys to keep your head level and, realize, yeah, does it stink not to be able to get it right at release? Yeah, if you missed out on a lot of your pre-orders, especially for Chillin' Reigns and stuff like that, yeah, it stinks to have to take a seat and wait a few months for prices to drop, but they will. And the reason prices will drop is just because of how much product is getting produced right now by Pokemon. And there's a lot of recent sets that have absolutely huge disparities between single prices and sealed prices. You could go back and pretty hot sets, one of the hottest sets, my personal favorite set, still a set I think singles are undervalued, is Cosmic Eclipse. Cosmic Eclipse prices have, gone up so fast. We're sitting right around the $500 mark for booster boxes. The single prices for a lot of those secret rares and a lot of those chase cards, the disparity between, say, a $30 to $40 card versus a $500 booster box, you gotta imagine, to buy a Cosmic Eclipse booster box, you're only gonna get a few hits. You can spend $200 picking up Cosmic Eclipse singles and do way better than you would if you actually bought that product. And that's crazy to say too, because how awesome a product Cosmic Eclipse is. But the singles are there for very cheap. And if Cosmic Eclipse does continue to be a strong set, does not get a reprint where Can it happen? Yeah, sure, it can happen. Is it looking, more and more unlikely that it happens? Yes, it is looking more and more unlikely. So that just means one thing: the single prices will continue the rise, or at least if they don't at least rise crazy, they need to rise enough where they could justify the prices that a lot of people are paying for Cosmic Eclipse booster boxes. So, you know, it's important to look at the market and find these huge disparities in prices. But even Cosmic Eclipse, there was still, PSA was still open. CGC was still on relatively decent turnaround times for a lot of those cards. But for all this super modern stuff, the grading market will not be there. So what is going to happen with all these cards, guys? I already told you in the video. They're just going to flood the market. And it's going to be a huge buying opportunity for a lot of you guys. But you got to be mindful. Don't get caught up, losing your shirt in modern. I think all the steps and all the pieces are starting to line up to really start to see the big pullback in modern. And when I say big pullback, I'm just saying we're going to pull back from a lot of these astronomical prices right out release that don't really make a lot of sense. And we're just going to see modern slowly creep back to that right around that MSRP price. And it's going to give a lot of people a ton of opportunities out there that have been trying to pick up modern product and really hasn't been able to. But we're also going to potentially start to see a lot of buyer's fatigue hit a lot of people. If the amount of product I think is going to hit the market in the near term, eventually people will get that buyer's fatigue. So that could also be indicative of them now taking all those raw cards and again flooding the market even more with raw cards, because if they do get buyer's fatigue, they might be a little inclined to step back from the hobby a little bit or even step back completely. And if they're trying to get any of their money back or recoup any of their losses, the only real option they're going to have is to sell their high dollar, chase cards for a lot of these modern sets. But even though they're high dollars for the current sets, they could be devalued just because of the simple supply of them that are out there. Guys, this is a really interesting time that's going to play out in the next couple months, even maybe the entire year of 2020. What we see happen in 2021 is going to be a reflection of what happens going, into just not only 2022, but the future in general, and how strong the hobby can continue to be or continue to not be. It really depends on how you're looking at it. So this is just what I think right now for the market is that with PSA closed and CGC being well over a year to get your cards back, there's going to be a lot of these buying opportunities for a lot of chase cards and a lot of modern sets. And keep it in mind, you got to open a lot of modern product in order to actually attain these chase cards. And don't get me wrong, sure, is there still super high tiers available for graded? Yeah. And if you want to try to go that route and send some of these super modern cards away and do your best to be first to market and try to get a premium, yeah, I mean, maybe you can do that. I don't really recommend it. I always recommend against it. But it's, it's something you're going to have to make a decision on. If you're also spending a lot of money to get these cards back pretty quick from grading just so you could add them to your personal collection, I really, really, really need to recommend against that. That's super short-sighted. And if you do plan to be in this hobby, and I've said it before, the best weapon you could have on your side if you do plan to be in this hobby for a long time is Father Time. The amount of time it takes to get your cards back, yeah, while it does really, really suck, the amount of money you're going to save in the long term might really be worth it for you, especially if you're really going to be grading a lot of cards. But hey, listen, guys, I know I went off on a tangent today, but that's fine. If you somehow made it to the end of this video and you're not subscribed, do me a favor. Go down below, hit that subscribe button. Other than that, hit the like button. It helps me out a lot, especially with the YouTube algorithm. Other than that, I'll catch you guys on the next video.